Yes, quaint and curious war is. You shoot a fellow down. You treat if met where any bar is, or help to half a crown. I'm already having goosebumps. So let's get into it. Hi friends, welcome back to Padhi with Prachi. आज है हमारा poetry analysis day, and the poem that we have picked up is The Man He Killed by Thomas Hardy. So this was a poem which I had. Studied in school, in high school. It's a poem which, when this idea came to me that I want to do poem analysis, right, as to the meaning behind what the poets wanted to convey, be it a Hindi poem, be it an English poem, be it a doha, Kabir Das ke dohe, or whatever, right? So bhavarth kya hai, meaning kya hai. So I was just making a list of poems which I remembered from my childhood, right? And this was a poem which I had in my mind. So I have a list of such poems in my prints in my with me. And the first poem which I've picked up is this. And so let's hope it's good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read it out and then try to also explain it along the way and give my analysis views on it, right? The Man He Killed by Thomas Hardy. Had he and I but met by some old ancient inn, we should have sat us down to wet, right many a nipperkin. Had he and I but met. Here it is written by someone in first person, as in their I is the tone, right? So a person is talking from his perspective that, if he and I had met in some inn, we would have sat down and had many a nipperkin. Nipperkin is a drink. It could be a beer, wine, or any of these alcoholic drinks. Yeah, and the poem is written in an AB format. Had he and I but met by some old ancient inn, we should have set us down to wet, right many a nipperkin. Okay, moving on. But ranged as infantry and staring face to face, I shot at him as he at me, and killed him in his place. So we can see a straight away contrast from the first paragraph, right? The first paragraph, he says that had he and I had met, he's talking about someone else. If we had met in a bar, we would have had drinks together. But where did we happen to meet? We met as ranged as infantry. We met as soldiers, as not fellow soldiers, soldiers of opposite nations, of different nations, enemy nation. He and the other person is a soldier from an enemy nation, and they stared at each other face to face, and he shot both of them, raising their weapons at each other, shooting at each other. But this person who's saying this poem shot him first, killed him in his place. I shot him dead because he was my foe. Just so, my foe. Of course he was. That's clear enough, although. So in the third paragraph, it seems that he's trying to understand why did he shoot him. And we can see the usage of repeating words here, I shot him dead because he was my foe. Just so, my foe, of course he was. That's clear enough, although. So how this paragraph ends is, he is first asking, he was telling himself that why did I shoot him? I shoot him because he was my enemy. Yes, of course he was my enemy. That's very clear, but it ends on although. So it means that the writer, the poet, or the person who is saying this is not satisfied with this answer of that he just shot him because he was his enemy. Moving on. He thought he'd list perhaps, of hand just as I was out of work, had sold his traps, no other reason why. So in this paragraph, he's trying to wonder, he's seeing a shared connection between him and the other soldier. He's saying that maybe this guy just enlisted in the army because just offhand, just as this guy did, because this guy was out of work, he didn't have money, he didn't have much to go by, so he just enlisted in the army, and there was no other reason that he enlisted in the army. And he feels that maybe this soldier also did the same. The soldier he killed, the man he killed. Yes, quaint and curious war is. You shoot a fellow down. You treat if met where any bar is, or help to half a crown. I'm already having goosebumps all over, right? What is the poet saying here? He's saying that how quaint and curious war is, that you have to shoot a person down. And if you'd met the same person in a bar, you would have probably helped him to half a crown. You would have helped him. You would have lended money to him. So this poem shows irony. It uses irony and juxtaposition. The very first thing, it is quite ironical, right? Because when we are reading, the person himself is saying that, I'm meeting this man, I met this man. If I would have met them in a bar, I would have helped him. I would have had drinks with him. He would have been my friend. The soldier here is saying that, so the irony is that what is the reader expecting here? That if they would have met, they would have, had drinks, he would have helped him, he would have been a friend, but instead he shoots him down. We can see through the poem, right? As we are reading through it, we understand that this person doesn't hate him. He's not his enemy. I mean, he's his enemy because he's enemy. Of course, he's his enemy. He's like an enemy nation, soldier of an enemy nation, and it's his work to do that. But his first instinct, if you look at the very first paragraph, and even as the poem ends, his instinct is not to kill. His instinct is to connect. He feels that he sees a shared connection in him. He sees a shared chemistry in him. We can see the hesitation here in the fourth paragraph. Offhand, just as I was out of work, had sold his traps. He feels a connection with him. He feels that the person is same as him. He would have had a similar life as him. And if he would have met him at a bar, they would have been friends. They would have had drinks together. He would have helped him, right? But then instead, what did he do? He shoots him. The only thing for him to do is to kill or be killed. He is forced to kill in the name of patriotism. He's trying to understand what war makes you do, right? Because he is clearly saying that this guy was not my enemy. If I had met him, I would have been friends with him. So what Thomas Hardy is doing through this poem is trying to show that the futility and the senselessness of war, where people are treated as numbers, faceless numbers, as abstract concepts, and not seen as individual, right? Where you're just killing people because you're supposed to, and there's no other reason. There's no other reason. The instinct is not to kill, it was never to kill. The instinct was to connect. In fact, through this, when he killed him, he is still trying to understand, and the end, he in fact sees that person as his mirror image, that probably he could have been something similar to him, that just went to the army for the sake of it because he wanted to earn money and not to kill someone else, right? I mean, it's quite ironical that you are a soldier and you are thinking in this manner, but it is. And the main point is the end of the poem. It's not that he comes to terms to what he has done. He says that, okay, I have to do this for my nation, or I have to do it for patriotism, or no. He says, he in fact questions it again. What a quaint and curious thing war is, where you shoot a fellow down, who you'd have treated if you would have met in any bar, right? You would have bought him drinks, you would have helped him out, you would have been friends with him, right? So if you see the placement of how it's stated, it's like juxtaposition where they are stating that you've been friends with him, you would have treated him, but then he say, I shot him dead, staring him face to face, killed him in his place, right? So it's a very well written poem, and I don't know why, maybe because of this or what it is, but the way it's written, right? It's written in a very simple language, almost like a nursery rhyme, right? A B format, very casual, very casually. It's very easy to understand, but it's quite contrasting to the horrific, the violent content of it all, right? Reading it, I get goosebumps. So the world that's happening now and the things that are happening now, this is something which will always remain. And I know people will justify the means to an end or the ends to the mean, or justify it, I don't know, but this is what comes to my mind. And it's a very powerful anti-war message, and sort of touched my being, even reading it now, even when I was reading it then. A lot of tools I read about it in my analysis of the poem was that some tools I will just tell you about it. So as I said, they were repeating words, right? Then there's a tool known as diacope, where you repeat the words, right? A repetition of words like face to face. Then he was my foe of course, because. Then there's another word known as kesara, which means there's a break in the or pause in poetry. It was going very straightforward. And then there's these dashes, right, where he says he's trying to convince himself why he killed him, because dash. Then he's talking about him that he feels a shared connection with him, off work hand like, just as I. So it sort of shows that there's some hesitation, there's some wavering on the part of the poet. So these are some tools which are used. I am sure there would have been some certain other poetic tools, expressions that have been used here. This is something which I found out over my analysis of it, but otherwise, as I said, it still touched my heart the way it is written, and I liked it. I liked it. So let me know in your comments, or how did you like my analysis of it, and any other comments that you have for this poem or any other poem you'd want me to analyze. Let me know what do you want, and how you liked it, and any other feedback that you might have, and just share it with your friends. So this is what learning with me, learning together, and that's what Padhi with Prachi is all about. So till then, like, share, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Padhi with Prachi.